I have 20 minutes left, and I don't know it. It is the 25th of October, 1854. I am on a ridge above Balaclava, with a folded piece of paper in my hand, and I am the fastest rider in the British Army. That is not a boast. It is the reason the paper was given to me, and not to somebody else. In a moment I am going to ride down 400 feet of broken ground to hand this order to a man I hold in contempt. He is going to read it, and he is going to ask me a question. I am going to answer him badly. And 670 horsemen are going to ride into a valley with Russian guns on 3 sides of it. Everything written about that afternoon since has been an argument about 4 seconds. The 4 seconds in which I lifted my arm and pointed. I am the only man who knew what I meant by it, and I was dead before anyone could ask. So let me take you through the 20 minutes. Not the charge. Everybody knows the charge. The 20 minutes before it, when it could still have gone differently. Start with the ground, because the ground is the whole tragedy. Lord Raglan, our commander, is standing on the Sapoon Heights. From up there, the battlefield is a map. He can see 2 valleys divided by a low ridge called the Causeway Heights. He can see the redoubts along that ridge, which the Turks held this morning and lost, and which have British naval guns in them. And he can see Russian teams moving up with horses and tackle to drag those guns away. A captured gun is a trophy. An army that loses its guns is an army that has been beaten. And everyone will know it. Raglan wants them back. Now go down into the valley, where Lord Lucan sits with the cavalry. From down there, the Causeway Ridge is not a feature on a map. It is a horizon. Lucan cannot see the redoubts. He cannot see the gun teams. He cannot see the thing Raglan is talking about, because the ground itself is in the way. 2 men, 1 battlefield, and 2 completely different pictures of it. Raglan does not appear to have grasped this. That is the first failure, and it happens before I am even handed the paper. Raglan dictates. General Eyre writes it down in pencil. It reads, Lord Raglan wishes the cavalry to advance rapidly to the front. Follow the enemy and try to prevent the enemy carrying away the guns. Troop horse artillery may accompany. French cavalry is on your left. Immediate. Read it again, and read it as a man standing in the valley. Advance rapidly to the front. Which front? The guns. Which guns? There is no map reference. There is no name. There is no direction. Raglan wrote it while looking directly at the guns he meant. And the guns he meant were so obvious to him that he did not think to say which ones they were. That is the sentence I am carrying. And I want you to notice what it does not contain. Because in a minute, a great many people are going to blame me for the gap. And the gap was in the paper before I touched it. Airy adds 1 word out loud as he hands it over. Immediate. So I go down the escarpment fast. Fast enough that men who watched it still talked about the descent years later. Lucan reads it. And Lucan does what any competent officer would do with an order that vague. He asks, Attack, sir? Attack what? What guns, sir? Here is where I have to be honest with you, and it is not flattering. I despise this man. I have written a book on cavalry. I have spent the whole campaign watching Lucan and Cardigan hold this arm back until it has become a standing joke. Men in the infantry call our commander Lord Lookon. I have said so out loud to other officers more than once. And now he is standing in front of me asking a question that seems to me, from the ridge I have just come down, where I could see everything, like one more excuse to do nothing. So I do not answer carefully. I throw my arm out and I say, "There, my lord, is your enemy. There are your guns." And my arm goes down the North Valley, toward the Don Cossack battery, a mile away at the far end, with Russian artillery on the hills to the left and Russian guns on the causeway to the right. I meant the redoubts. I am nearly certain I meant the redoubts. But I was angry, and I was pointing at a valley I had just ridden past rather than a ridge I had just ridden over, and Lucan is looking along my arm at the only guns he can actually see from where he is standing. 4 seconds. That is the whole thing. 4 seconds and a gesture made in temper. Lucan does not ask again. That is the part that has never sat right with me. He believes the order is madness. He says as much later, and he is correct. It is madness. And he passes it on anyway, to Cardigan, who is his own brother-in-law, and who he has not spoken a civil word to in years. Cardigan reads the situation instantly, says the Russians have a battery in the valley, and riflemen on both flanks, and Lucan shrugs and says, "Raglan will have it." 3 men in a row, each one privately certain this is wrong, and not one of them stops it. This is what I want you to take from the whole story, more than the poem, more than the glory. The order was ambiguous. That was Raglan's failing. My gesture was careless. That was mine. But an ambiguous order and a careless gesture only kill 600 men if the chain of people underneath them decides that asking a second question is more dangerous to a career than riding into a crossfire. Nobody in that valley lacked courage. What they lacked was the willingness to look foolish in front of a man they disliked. The brigade moves off at a trot, and then I do the last thing I ever do. I ride out, forward and across, ahead of the line, across Cardigan's front, which is a serious breach of discipline and which he is furious about for the rest of his life. Men behind me see me shouting and waving my sword toward the right, toward the causeway. I have never been able to tell you what I was doing, and neither has anyone else. Perhaps I had realized what Lucan had understood and I was trying to turn them. Perhaps I was simply the fastest rider in the army, riding fastest, as I always did. The argument has run for 170 years, and it cannot be settled, because a Russian shell burst to my right and a fragment went through my chest, and I came off my horse still holding my sword in the air. First man killed, perhaps 90 seconds in. Behind me, 670 went down the valley. Around 110 were killed, 160 wounded, and near enough 400 horses died. The brigade reached the guns. It could not hold them. It came back out through the same crossfire it had ridden in through. A French general watched it from the heights and said the only thing anyone remembers, "It is magnificent, but it is not war." 6 weeks later, Tennyson published a poem, and after that it stopped being a blunder and became a legend, which suited a great many people who would otherwise have had questions to answer. I could not answer any of them. I had been dead since the first minute. So, if a man you could not stand handed you an order you were certain was wrong, would you have asked him twice?